Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is a continuation of my ADP versus end of the season PPR points by position. Still in quarterbacks. Got us a lot of slides and data to talk about in this first layer. That's right, first layer of information here. It's March 2nd. There's no off season, folks. So let's just hang on and let's start digging into this data here. So part 3, go check out obviously part 1 and 2. What I did here is I looked at the ADP sector, of course, the position, the name, and the average PPR points for that person for that year. So this is 2015 to 23. So I think by staying in pink versus green and up to red, I think it shows you where things get dangerous and not. And so it's just even though it's a data table, I believe it allows us to kind of look at the information here in a little bit different way. So, if you, so early on, 13th to 18th ADP sector, we actually see we had 2 successes and 1 failure. That was Andrew Luck way back when. 19th to 24th, we had 3 successes. 25th to 30th, we've had 2 good successes, 1 and kind of a failure if you think about Rogers. So you can start seeing the almost get a visual feel for the odds of success versus ADP here, and you can see that fairly early on you're going to get a pretty good quarterback. There are some exceptions, so you can imagine the intensity if you grabbed Rogers or Luck, or who's a Joe Burrow last year, or Peyton Manning. You can see the first 60 picks there. You had some seriously 4 sad, but really 4 out of, I don't know what the total is, but it's not too bad. So you have pretty good odds. And if you count the deeper greens, that would be the total successes. So you can kind of get, and the lighter green is okay, I guess you could take it kind of thing. So you can get a feel just by counting the different classes of colors, the success levels. So I did this, and you can go through the ADPs and start seeing where it gets really risky. And 79 to 84, it starts getting real risky biscuits here. And I think the solid greens start getting a little bit rare here, even I think at the 73rd, 78, not a lot of dark greens here. So for me, the 6th round for quarterbacks, some of that data is just, you can visually see what we're talking about here. And then you can go further down the ADP. And, if you're good and you end up grabbing some of these guys late, good for you. However, look what was out there as well. So it's kind of like the minefield. It's got a lot of sad news out here for picking. So your diary better show you're good at this, because certainly after the 121st picks here, and even deeper, this idea that you're going to wait till the end of the draft and grab you somebody, ooh, that's lean. Not saying it, you can spot the 2 or 3 situations where it happens. So if you're that damn good, you really hold an advantage as far as quarterback drafting here. And of course, at a certain point, end of the draft, it's just I think, Geno Smith, Baker were two successes. Then we had Carr and some of these guys, fairly good success, but lots of failures here. So one would argue, well, I'm good enough to pick that. Well, great. You probably shouldn't be listening to me. I should be listening to you if you're that good. Again, another way to look at this data. So I took the name data and I divided into 4 quadrants there. The E's are the best, the above average, or you could live with below average, and then the complete losers there, and then the total. So that's kind of how I divide it. So I've got the actual numbers, and then I've got the percentages here of each sector. And you can see that the top really rules 67% and 100%, from 13th to 24th. So that's basically the second round. So yeah, if you want to spend your draft capital, most likely you're going to have a really great quarterback. So again, can you put a team together like that? Here is the next quadrant here, all the way down to the 6th round. And for the most part, you have a good chance of grabbing a great quarterback, but still getting an okay one here. After about the 6th round, notice, start getting a little lean here. Little lean. So that's kind of how I mark here, is just looking at the percentages of success here. And you could graph this, the top 25%, that was the E players, and the next 25, the next 25, and then the bottom 25. And you can look at the patterns. And the E are in green here. And you can see, you can really grab the green early, but notice you start declining big time. And the okay quarterbacks take over. Looks like 25th pick, you still got a chance at getting a good one with an okay one here. And you're still okay, but, and here's the 6th round. When you hit this point, you're starting to get the bottom half starts coming up on you here. And you see we kind of have a lull, but the okay ones pop up here late. So many people saying that they can get a good quarterback. What they're probably saying is they got an okay one this late. Okay, but there's risk here. And of course, here's the losers. And you can start seeing that, by the end of the draft, there's a lot of these guys. And you get a lot of sadness in here. So you can track that. It's another way to look at it. Look at the trends here in the great ones and the good ones in blue. And you can see, and then the draft round here. And like I said, to me, the 72nd pick or before, the reason I'm staying here is you have an opportunity to get a great one. I understand if you miss, you probably are getting an okay one. But if you look at the grade here, 75% here in the 6th round. So that's kind of a blip here. But for the most part, you can hit a 50% shot right in here. But after that, if you look at the orange, you're starting to get into the 40s and 30s. So to me, this data kind of cuts it right here. Here's how you cut your pie right here. And for the most part, I think that 72nd pick and back is successful later than 72nd. Starting to get a little risky here. And I broke the data up by year and then draft round so you can actually see what's going on. And I think what becomes apparent, take a look at the more recent years versus the preceding. You see something going on that's different. Yeah, looks like things have really started to change these last 3 or 4 years. Quarterbacks are really, maybe it's just Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, these kind of things. It's just an interesting time that you got 3 or 4 great quarterbacks that, of course, are available early. You got to pay for them. You don't get nothing for free in fantasy here. And, you should never think, ooh, I just got a bargain. Yeah, maybe not. So you can start seeing, when I looked at this data, some really interesting things were going on. And I went further, and you can break it by the year and just visually see the data and the success and failures lined up here. And I keep going down here. So this is really neat data just to kind of get a handle here on that data. And again, here was after the 6th round. Yeah, Dak paid you good, but look at Kirk Cousins because he got hurt. So, I mean, you had a good one, but you had a sad one here. And if you went a little further, Rodgers, of course, was sad. Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson. So it got lean after the 6th round, even last year. Had some good ones if you got Purdy or if you got a Goff, needless to say. And you had a pretty good one here. Geno was okay, but then there was Anthony Richardson, got hurt. So again, I think this data shows me where the danger lies. And I removed names and just started tracking. But it seems to me that things last few years have been really good for quarterbacks. Here, if you look at colorization, the deep green are the better ones here. And so I divided first 60 and 60 back and looked at in the top 30%, mid 40, bottom 30. So I kind of started cutting the pies. And 15 to 18, there were 13 in the top 60, 24. So almost double the quarterbacks being drafted earlier. So more quarterbacks being drafted earlier. But look at the success in the last few years. 12 out of 24, half were producing in the top 30%. That is really fantastic here. And so those are the numbers. And percentile-wise, 15 to 18, you were the best. You were at 38, plus 12 the last 4 years. Okay, and you can see we've gone up in even the mid-40s. Things have gone well. And notice the success of the later quarterbacks has actually gone down recently. Look at the difference, 6% down in the great quarterbacks. Hadn't changed much. The sad quarterbacks have actually gone up as well. So you're starting to see a trend, getting better quarterbacks recently, getting worse quarterbacks recently as well. So it's starting to split apart there a little bit. And the trends, if you look at 15 to 18, the top, the mid, and the bottom 30 percentile, and I look at green to green, we can see we've increased. Look at this. Isn't that nice? And look at the worst, dropped. So you're having greater chances of getting better quarterbacks in the last 4 years, folks. That is driving earlier quarterback success, not later. So late round, I'm not sure you weren't having your day uh, 15 to 18 versus now. Here is the opposite here, looking at the later ADP picks. The chance of getting a better quarterback has decreased in the last 4 years. Look at that versus preceding 4 or 5. The worst quarterbacks, you got a higher shot of getting zonks, as it were, bad quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are not producing. So I just arbitrarily hit it at 60, but it's pretty close to that number. So you need to realize where you're picking here, and also realize the variation. So I actually charted the variation for you here, and you can look at total points and the average ADP ranking. So you can look at variation, ranking, and total points. And if you do that, and here's the orange, the variation, people are pretty happy. And notice they realize that in this case, the variation really is insane at 103 to past, deeper. So you got double, triple the variation. That means it's a lot of randomness and sadness happening here. So be aware. I'm not going past about the 72nd pick. Notice the variation. It's still low, but what you're getting in return is, here's the trend. So the points bringing back in are getting sadder as you go through the draft, and that makes sense, right? And the variation, everybody's 100% sure what they're getting early. And then it starts getting a little wacky here, the first next 2 rounds. So first 2 rounds, actually round 2, 3, 4, even 5. And notice about round 6, bam. Notice this gap right here. That's to me, I would rather stay over here when I'm circling with the pointer. You got some success here and here, but look at the sadness. So you're getting a lot of variation. And then after, what about the 109 or so, the odds of you making that late round quarterback working are getting really slim at this point. So to me, I definitely like that data here. And let's see, where did I? Yeah, so I think in the previous lesson, I did show this data. So part 2, I did show you clearly things have changed from 15 to 18 versus 19 to 23, right in here. Big time change. And then you can actually track the variation. And I love this graph here showing just showing the level of risk or the level of uncertainty. It's almost been removed in the first 60 picks. So it looks really nice to me. Most likely you're have a 50-50 shot, folks, at getting a great quarterback. So I wouldn't wait past 60, certainly the 6th round, maybe 5th round, 6th round. But I think at that point it starts getting a little risky here. You start getting less chance of grabbing a good one and more chance of getting a sad one. And that's, so to me, looking at the failure rate, yeah, I can live with low failure rate here. This is almost 40% failure, folks, 37. I'm not willing to wait around and have a 37% chance of sucking on my court. You'll lose you will not win your league most likely. So I think your hand is being forced. I think that's what the data is telling us here. So that's what I got to say. I kind of was jaunty here. We'll start with part RBs coming next, so that's coming as well. But anyway, hope you